Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the webinar Ready for Change. I appreciate all of you taking the time out of your Sunday to sit down and listen to this. I also appreciate and congratulate all of you in putting an effort in to figure out the next steps, putting in the effort to try to move forward. I made that post the other night, and I did a photo shoot with Taylor in an effort to try to showcase how people feel. I end up working with a lot of people who are trapped or stuck in their mental space, with their health and wellness goals, with their health conditions, in life in general. And some of the photos that we took really showed how people just are trapped and stuck in their own skin, and they have no idea how to get out. They have no idea how to move forward, and there aren't always a lot of resources out there to help people move forward. I'm depressed. I have X condition. I have X amount of weight, and it's usually, here's some sort of medication or pill, and they often don't give us the answers that we're looking for. We look for a way to medicate, cover up, ignore, instead of actually trying to find the root as to all of this. And so today I really just want to share with you guys some basic strategies or steps to work on and focus on in an effort to try to get you out of the rut that you're in. Obviously, there's a bunch of you on this webinar, and we need to do some sort of individual coaching to figure out what specifically you may need to address. And so just remember that this is an overall view or landscape as to things to maybe focus on or pay attention to that you haven't been in the past. And some of you may know my history from the last 4 or 5 years. Some of you may only know me from the last few months. And so I'm going to start with giving you a little background as to my story and where I'm at, and where I'm at now and where I've come from, and the things that I've kind of learned along the way in that progression. Now, really, if I'm being completely honest, this all started, from childhood and upbringing and subconscious programming that I had, as a child in utero, and that's where it always starts. That's the beginning processes and things that you need to focus on and address to really move forward. But again, we don't know what we don't know, and I've done a lot of digging and prodding to figure these things out. Now, in the more recent history, I was a bodybuilder, and I used bodybuilding as an avenue to displace anger and distress that I had. Like most people, they are runners, they're in the gym. These are all healthy avenues as to manage stress, manage aggression, make us feel good. And people who don't manage those things in a healthy way are the people who use drugs or alcohol or things of that nature. And, based on my studies and as I was trying to understand the human psyche more and more, I always questioned, why do we do what we do? Why do humans make the decisions that they make? What drives them to making those decisions? And, for a long time I told myself, I was good at bodybuilding. I built respect from a community of people. I did well at it. It was social validation. I got trophies and I won shows, and I got clients who wanted me to get them on stage. And it built up this ego, this idea as to who I was and how people perceived me. Soon after that, I opened my own facility. I had my own small brick and mortar gym, and I had this whole entire foundation on the idea of who Jason was. Jason was a bodybuilder. He was a strength and conditioning coach, high performance coach. Back then I was doing a little bit of manual therapy, so I was working with people with chronic pain and things like that. And I continued to delve into more of the subconscious and the programming, the subconscious programming that I was running. And I kept questioning, why was I doing what I was doing? What was the purpose of it all, right? And the reason that we do things in our life is super important, right? Are we filling our ego? Are we running a pattern, a subconscious pattern? Are we trying to please others? What is the purpose of all of it? And, as I mentioned childhood earlier, I had a lot of repressed anger and emotion from my childhood, directed toward my dad. And I use bodybuilding and sports like rugby and football as a way to deal with those things. And, nothing is inherently good or bad, But for me, I just found that, I got to a point where I found bodybuilding was my form of stress management. And to me, it wasn't healthy. I was destroying my body in the gym. I was putting myself through pain in an effort to deal with pain I had. And I put myself through so much pain in the gym that you're just gassed after. You have no energy and you feel better as a result because you've displaced all that stress. And as I continued to do more work, on myself, I forgave my dad, not to forgive my dad, but I had to forgive my dad for myself because it was only my perspective that made me angry at him, right? We have to be responsible for our own emotions. People are going to do what they're going to do based on, their patterns and how they've learned things and how they've been brought up. But it always came back to, the way that I perceived him. And I just had this feeling that I wasn't good enough, and the way that he was parenting me based on how he was brought up made me feel like I wasn't worthy and that my father didn't respect me or think I was good enough, even though his actions showed that he loved me and cared about me and supported me. So this was my own dilemma, so to speak, my own problem that I was creating that I had to address. And in addressing that, I went through like what most would call like a midlife crisis, but I went through this process where I had a gym, I had a facility, I had a following, I had an identity as a bodybuilder, as a fitness professional, as a strength conditioning coach. People saw me in that world, and after forgiving my dad, I kind of lost all of it. I didn't have the drive to be a bodybuilder. I didn't have the drive to put myself through that kind of pain because I didn't think it was necessary. I was at peace with myself. I was managing my emotions in a healthier way than, beating myself up in the gym, as one would do alcohol or smoke weed or do drugs, whatever other form that one would use to manage emotions. And that was a big deal because the way that I made money, the way that I got paid was based on this ego, this identity that I created. And here I was having to now move away from something that I worked on for years to create, to only recognize that it wasn't actually me. It wasn't actually who I was. It was what everyone perceived me to be. I got recognition for being a bodybuilder and this conditioning coach and having all this muscle on me, and people told me how great I looked and I didn't get bullied as much anymore. I got respect, but it wasn't for me. It was for my physique and what I created. And, I got to a point where I just wasn't okay with that. I wasn't okay with people not knowing the real me, the authentic me. And going back to you don't know what you don't know, I had to figure out who I was, who I really was, figure out my soul contract, my archetype. Why was I here? What am I here to do? What type of human am I supposed to be on this planet? I'm a big believer that, each one of us has a soul purpose. We're here to do something for a reason. And it takes time to find that. It takes a lot of soul searching and work to find that. In today's society, it's like, what do you want to do? And it's like, what job do you want to work? What do you want to get paid? What kind of schedule do you want to have? And we kind of put ourselves into a category that seems to work for us, but isn't necessarily what we actually are here to do. And I'm very blessed, at the age of 26 to feel like I have found that. Who knows, 5 years from now that can change. But at this very moment in time, I'm living through my soul purpose, my archetype, which is to be a teacher, an educator, a healer in that sense. And, with that being said, I'm not someone, I don't believe that I heal people. I just give the people the potential to heal themselves. I try to show them the steps that I've learned from the many mentors that I've had over the years. And so going back to, this transition period, I had to really sit down and hone in on who I was, what my purpose was, and what was I here to do. And it was all fine and dandy because I know that I wanted to move past, the bodybuilding side of me, but I didn't really know what the next step was because I wasn't doing it yet. I didn't have the confidence to say that, I can help people heal and get better. And in this world, what you do, you need to make some money along the way as well. And so there was this transition period where I had to re-identify myself as a health practitioner and not a trainer, a strength and conditioning coach, or a manual therapist, or even a bodybuilder. I just had to re-identify myself as, this human, this individual who worked with chronic pain and chronic disease, and giving people the ability to be their own doctor. And I started to believe that wholeheartedly enough that people started to see it in me and build trust in me and, create a situation where they wanted to eventually pay me to help them get better. And, as I started to get more clients and work with that over time, it got better and better, where I believed it more and more. And to anyone listening, I would say that, I kind of did it a little backwards. I waited for the clients and the money and their recognition to really believe myself. And if there's anything you want to do, if you want anyone to really believe you, you have to believe it. You have to truly believe that you can do it, and it is your purpose and it is what you're here to do. And it took me some time to get there, just like it'll take you some time to get there. But with practice, you will get there. No, I would say that was the short and sweet version of many, many moves. I've probably moved about 16 times, different facilities, different gyms, different coaches, mentors, training programs. If anyone knew me, they would probably say that I'm a little bit crazy because I'm up and down all the time. But there has been many, phases of depression, I would call it. I was stuck, I was lost, very unhappy, very gloomy. I've done things that, no human should ever do to themselves in any sort of way. And these are all lessons that I've, learned over time. And I seek to try to help others not be in that same place. And so the purpose of today and what I'm going to talk about shortly are just the steps that I've used to get out of those spaces. To this day, I have times where I fall back into that self-worth story that I'm not good enough. I fall back into that hole, so to speak, that I stayed in for so very long. I used bodybuilding as a way to prove that I was good enough, but that wasn't me believing it. I believed I was good enough because of my physique, because of the awards, because of the recognition that I got. I didn't believe that I was good enough without any of that. And that was where the transition happened. I forgave my dad. I forgave my perspective of my dad, I should say. And I changed myself. I changed my perspective. I changed my energy. And I put myself into a position where I could actually move forward. And I empathize with anyone who's in that space because I know how difficult it could be. And the one thing, if I could give any piece of advice, it would be do not give it energy. Don't, think into it or feed that dark energy. Don't feed that space because it can be very drowning and, a rabbit hole that could be very difficult to get out of. And, some people get upset when I say that depression and things like that are in your head. And it isn't to a certain degree. Our mental states, our health states are multidimensional, which I'm going to talk about. And there's different layers to it. And you just got to understand that, we are meant to be happy, light-filled beings. That is our purpose. Children are so happy. They're playful. They're creative. They're artistic. And, our society kind of beats that out of us. Society beats us down. There's so much stress. There's so much hardship these days. We get away from being artistic and playing and having fun. And it's just so draining on our souls that, we get lost and we're like, what's the purpose of even being here? Why am I here? And a lot of this, call it brainwashing, if you will, just keeps us trapped. And I'm going to get into next is basically the first step. And the first step for me is creating a dream, a legacy, a one love. This is all ideology that I've picked up from Paul Chek. one of my main mentors and teachers. And that is the first step. What is the goal? What is the purpose? If anybody wants to lose a bunch of weight, what is the weight loss goal? Is there a competition? Is it a photo shoot, a wedding, vacation? Anyone who comes to me with chronic disease, there's usually multiple symptoms going on. Well, what is the goal? Is the goal to get rid of diarrhea or constipation? I just want to get rid of my brain fog. Or maybe, I just have breakouts all over my skin and I just want to have normal skin. And once you achieve that goal, great. Where's the next step? What is next? And, those are almost what we call process goals and in a range to your final weight loss goal or your final health goal or your final career goal. And beyond that is what we would call like a legacy. What type of legacy do you want to leave on this planet? What do you want to be remembered for? Who do you want to be remembered for? If you were to die tomorrow, how would you want people to remember you? What would you want to be put on your tombstone? Jay was a fun, loving, caring person. Sammy was a super sweet, caring soul. Like, everyone has their thing. And what do you want yours to be? Who do you want to be remembered for? What type of impact do you want to have on this planet, on the people around you, on your family? And that's super important. We find that a lot of people, or I find anyways, a lot of people are selfish and they do things for themselves. And, not that that's wrong because it's right in its own capacity, but I think we get away sometimes from just being a good human, having a good soul, caring about other people. For me, I try to give free consults and I'm doing this free webinar. This is all my efforts in just being a good human for the collective, the human collective, the conscious collective. How do we just become more conscious and aware of our actions? We don't live in poverty. We're blessed up here in North America to not live in poverty and live in this like fight or flight state, yet many of us on a nervous system level are in that state. We have homes, we have food, we have running water. There are places in the world that don't even have that. And here we are in the state of despair sometimes where we feel or are acting, I should say we are acting like we're in that state. So with all of that being said, legacy is important. Who do you want to be remembered for? What do you want to be remembered for? What type of impact do you want to have on the planet would be step one. Contrary to that, or next to that, I should say, is one love. What is your one love? And, in the check series that we learned, that's the first step that we do with every single client. What is your one love? And when I was kind of building out what my one love was, that's difficult. People don't know what their one love would be. What is their dream job? What do they want to do for the rest of their life? And that's a difficult question, right? We kind of do things because we have to versus because we want to or love to. And how I work with a lot of people is we start with, what do you not want to do? What do you not love? I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to work night shifts. I don't want to commute an hour to work. Like, you have to focus on what you don't want and in order to sometimes figure out what you do want, what you do love. And that is a difficult task. And, these two things, which I have at the beginning here, are sometimes the hardest to do because it takes the most time. It takes a lot of revising. Every 3 months, 4 months, for me, it changes to some capacity. Something, in regards to my dream, my legacy, where I want to go, what I want to do, changes as I gain more and more life events. And there's many of us that just, we go to work, we go home, we go to bed, and we repeat. And we just keep doing that, just focused on the weekend or focused on our next vacation. And our everyday grind becomes exactly what it is, an everyday grind. We stop loving life. We stop loving the experience of life. We stop enjoying our friends and our family as much as we should. And this is where you hear people who, are super sick and dying, or people who end up in traumatic accidents, or there's those who go to the other side of the world to have, let's just call it energetic experiences, and their entire perspective completely changes, and they start to live life again. And whether your goal is to lose weight, get over a health issue, health condition, whether it's get out of that negative brain space in terms of depression or anxiety. It's about living life again. And that's where I use the concept of being in your head. Depression is living in the past. You're stuck in the past. You're depressing your true self. Anxiety is you being stuck in the future. Why do you have this fear of the future? What are you so fearful of? And these are all questions that I'm asking you that are in your head. And then, contrary to all of that, there is physical manifestations in terms of neurotransmitters, so on and so forth, that we're going to chat about. So, step 1, one love. Step 2, dream and legacy. Now, for everyone who does attend, I'm going to be sending you guys out a, outline of this podcast with a few questions to kind of give you something to take away in an effort to start this process. These are experiences that you're going to try to work on your own. Otherwise, just like everybody else, you hire a coach or a mentor or someone to walk through it with you. So step number 2, or phase number 2 for me, I need to explain to you how I view the human experience. Now, as many of you know, or some of you may know, I'm studying my doctorate in natural medicine right now from Quantum University. And Dr. Drouin is the founder of the university. He's actually an MD from Quebec, Canada. And he came up with a very interesting concept of the human experience and what we call the 4 levels that, us as quantum doctors focus on. And the first level is the physical. The physical is what most health practitioners work with, chiros, physios, osteopaths, nutritionists, doctors. For the most part, they're working with the physical body and working with the physical body in some sort of capacity, whether it's manual therapy, nutrition, drugs, that's the capacity that they're working with. And for some, it works amazingly. For others, it doesn't work. It doesn't solve all the problems because, as I said, there are more layers to it. So layer number 1, physical. Layer number 2 is what we call vital. Vital is your energetic body. And I want you guys to think of these levels in a linear fashion, and I'm starting at the bottom. So the foundation, the very bottom, is the physical body. Layer number 2 is vital, so that's energetic. And when we think of the energetic body, I want you to think about maybe the chakra system, so different energy centers of the body. You think about something like yoga or meditation, where we're trying to move energy around the body. If you're familiar with something like traditional Chinese medicine, they'll often talk about your qi, your life force being stuck. It's not moving through the meridian lines effectively. So they use things like acupuncture to try to move this qi and energy. Level number 3 is mental. So mental is your mental state. It is your mental emotional state. It is your mind, your perspective of events, right? Our mind and our brain are separate, but our mind is, from what we can understand, in our brain, right? There's no physical location of the mind other than that voice that we hear in our head, such as what we call our consciousness. Now, in perspective to the mind, there's 2 layers. We have our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is arguably 5 to 10% of your brain capacity. Your subconscious mind is that 90 to 95%, and that is an automatic program. Now, where do these automatic programs come from in our subconscious mind? Well, this is what we achieve through meditation. In meditation, you achieve certain brainwave states where you can get into your subconscious mind and reprogram it. This is where positive affirmations come in and these thoughts that we try to have during meditation sequences. And your subconscious mind is what's programmed in utero, when you're in your mom's uterus, or in the ages of 0 to 6, before our brain waves turn into a state at around 6, 7, 8, where we move into that frame of conscious thought. So a lot of us have this belief pattern, such as myself, that I am not good enough, I am not worthy, or I am not loved. And these are because of patterns that we've learned from a child, the way that our parents spoke about us, or the way the parents spoke to us, or arguments that happened around us as we were kids, or traumas that we went through as a child. These are all stories, filters, perspectives that we use to filter our entire life. A different example would be, say we have a young girl and, dad wasn't around very much. And so there's a story created around daddy doesn't love me, or, the parents divorced, dad left, and daddy doesn't love me now. This little girl just wants love from her dad, and this girl grows up to be super untrustworthy of men. She makes poor decisions with men. She picks men who manipulate her or use her because subconsciously she doesn't trust men to begin with, and she's trying to find that love, but is doing it usually in the wrong manner. And so these are often subconscious programs that people are running. And I was running that program. I had this idea that I was unworthy. And so throughout my life, I looked for reasons to justify or fulfill the story that I wasn't good enough. I made all this evidence being like, Jay, look, you're not good enough. Jay, look, you're not good enough. See, you're not worthy. This person thinks this, you're not good enough. And that's not always the case. It's usually not the case. But we make it the case because it's a subconscious program we believe. So at the bottom, we have physical. Above that, we have vital. Third in line above that, we have mental. And at the very top, we have something called supramental. And supramental is connection to source. Supramental is spirituality. So some of you have different religions, such as say Hinduism or Muslim or Catholic, and this is our belief system. We believe in a God. We believe in some greater power. I'm more of a believer in the universe, right? I believe that there is a governing power or a purpose that the universe has for everyone and everything. And, I try to not fight the universe on things because I know I can't control it. And it's about learning how to go within the ebb and flow of that. Now, as a quantum doctor, we focus on these 4 categories and essentially work to coach on all 4 levels. We want to work with the human experience on all 4 levels. And if a doctor is only working on one of those levels, it may or may not work, right? We hear stories about people praying and getting better. We hear stories about people going to psychologists and psychotherapy and being able to heal and get better. We hear stories about people going to see traditional Chinese medicine doctors or shamans or witch doctors of the sort and getting better. And then, of course, we have our usual realm, which is the physical realm in terms of different doctors, therapists, so on and so forth. And so with all of that being said, we want to understand that there are many layers to this. And if one layer is not working for you, I encourage you to start to explore the other layers. Start to explore, other doctors out there. In recent history, we have focused more on the physical, but if we go back more than, say, 200, 300, 400 years, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, shamans, if we even think about Aboriginals, so if we want to keep it closer to home, they used, animals as gods. And we have this idea throughout history as to all these different energetic practices that have been used and methods to heal people. And we seem to have moved away from that in recent time due to technology and science and trying to understand biology on a finite level. And what seems to be missing is that biology is not finite, it's exponential. It's what we call quantum physics. And quantum physics is the overall viewpoint of physics and reality. But we like to stick to the laws of Newtonian physics. Allopathic medicine is Newtonian physics. X causes Y causes Z. And if we understand biology on any sort of level, that's not true. It's all about probability. This and this could cause this. 2 people could mate and, or have a child, and this could happen. It's not finite. Medication is supposed to cause X, Y, Z, but could cause a whole slew of other things because you're affecting this causal chain and having a whole reaction sequence occur, and there's no way to know exactly what's going to happen. So, again, physical, we have vital, we have mental, and we have supramental. And the biggest thing about all of this is that working at the bottom does not perpetuate upwards. Changing your pelvic tilt or working with your neck doesn't really work on changing your mind space, right? The bottom, working at the physical level, the bottom does not perpetuate upwards. But working at the top of the chain, the supramental, the mental level can often perpetuate downwards. And in my years of coaching people and working people, I just have come to find that all physical dysfunction is a manifestation of emotional dysfunction on some sort of level. And I'm going to give you an example as a way that I can explain this further. So, someone comes in with low back pain, and it's like, okay, great. They have low back pain. Let's take a look at pelvic torsion. Let's see their core strength. What's going on? And, you kind of address it physically, and you see that, yep, their pelvis is tilted, their core is really weak, so on and so forth. You give them what you're supposed to give them, and let's say person A gets better, but person B doesn't get better. Well, then person B doesn't get better, and it's like, okay, I'm the type of guy that I got to go to the next level. What else could be going on? Well, staying within the physical realm, if someone has something going on at a organ level, such as large intestine inflammation, small intestine inflammation, they got candida, they got parasites. These are all organ issues that will cause the abdominal wall to bloat out and distend. Now, if your abdominal wall is bloated and distended, you're not going to have really effective core function no matter how hard you train your core, because your body is turning it off to allow space for blood to flow through your organs. Well, now you got an organ problem. You got to address the organ problem in order to get the abdominal wall firing better, in order to protect the low back, right? But with all that being said, if we want to think about this now at the third level, which is, mental, emotional, you want to look at, say, the chakra system. So we're looking at the third chakra, personal power, self-will, self-confidence, and their mental space is that they're not a confident person. They don't believe in themselves. They don't speak their mind. They keep their mouth shut. And that is energetically going to cause issues in the third chakra region, which is right in that solar plexus region. Well, in that solar plexus region, we have a lot of important organs, right? It's going to energetically mess with that area that someone like a Reiki master or a traditional Chinese medicine doctor in terms of qi may be able to pick up. And those two things and are causing a physical dysfunction, as well as the fact that they possibly have bugs or micronutrient deficiencies and things of that nature. So you can see how it can get pretty complex and pretty layered. And that I hope this doesn't deter anyone. It should be coming from, or I'm at least intending it to come from, a purpose of awareness. And don't feel stuck in your mental space or your health space, because you can get better if you choose to get better. You just have to look beyond our Western medical system in terms of, let's use drugs to treat this. You have this genetic condition, so you're stuck with it. Well, the last time I checked, you weren't born with Crohn's, and you created it based on your lifestyle because of how you lived your life, the environment that you chose to live and be in. Now, it's not, I guess I shouldn't say that because it's not fair for some people who develop things while living at home or childhood, but you are now, if you're listening to this, you are at an age where you have an awareness and the conscious choice to make a decision as to how to change and get better. And this is about giving you those steps to at least outline, that there are, I should say, other avenues out there to get better. So again, we have physical, vital, mental, and supramental. And there are all sorts of different doctors, as I said. There are shamans, traditional Chinese medicine doctors, Ayurvedic medicine doctors, herbologists, acupuncturists. And this is all just in the homeopaths. And this is all just in the alternative medicine world. I'm not even going into the normal medical practitioners, because most of you know who those are. So with all of that being said, there are multiple layers to the human experience. And if you're trying or have tried one method and it's not working, it's not giving you the results that you're looking for, I suggest finding another practitioner, coach, doctor, that can possibly get you to the next level. If one way doesn't work, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. If one way is not working, well, there's got to be another way. and they're out there. You just have to look beyond what would be normal. They always say, if one conscious state got you into a problem, that same conscious state usually is going to get you out of it. You have to change your perspective. You have to change your awareness, change your conscious effort. Now, moving forward, it's great that you understand now that there are 4 levels. The next method that I like to coach on, if we're talking more about the physical body, because we do live in a very physical world and physical reality, and so we have to address it accordingly. Well, with that being said, we have 2 different energy states. We have yin and we have yang. And, based on a premise of Paul Chek, we have what we call working in and working out. Working out means that you are doing things where energy is leaving the body. Energy is going out of the body. And then we have yin. Yin is working in. You're doing things in the physical realm that is bringing energy into the body. Now, if I ask most of you to think about your day, you only do yang activities. There's a whole lot of energy leaving the body. Yet most of you are tired, depressed, sick, and you have no idea why. And that is because most of you are not doing anything that is yin, that is bringing energy in. If we were to divide this category up a little bit more from just yin and yang, we get the 4 doctors. Again, this is a Paul Chek reference. And the 4 doctors are Dr. Movement, Dr. Happy, Dr. Quiet, and Dr. Diet. Now, each of those doctors relate to a certain category in terms of yin or yang. So if we look at Dr. Movement and Dr. Happy, we'd like to call those yang doctors, because those are doctors where energy is moving out of the body. Now, there's subdivisions to this, because you can have movements that are very yin in nature versus yang, but most of us do very yang activities. So if you're doing something that makes you happy, if you're, working out, you're doing Dr. Movement, usually there's a lot of energy leaving the body because you're doing something. You have energy, you're exerting energy. You're doing an activity, playing a sport, laughing. Say, your purpose, your legacy is to party all the time. Well, that's your Dr. Happy. It's making you happy. And these are all yang activities. Well, in order to do our yang activities and live the life that we want, we have to have yin. We have to have an energy reserve to do that, right? If we don't have energy in the system, how can we exert energy? How can we put energy out? And when we do this for a really, really long time without energy coming into the system, that is where depression, anxiety, disease state, fat loss doesn't happen. This is where people get stuck, trapped in their body, and they feel like they have no way out of that hole that they have dug themselves in. So again, yang, energy out, Dr. Movement, Dr. Happy. And then we have yin, which is Dr. Quiet and Dr. Diet. And, this is where most people struggle, in my opinion. There are people like, I eat healthy food, I do this, I do that. And, if I'm going to be completely blunt, getting food from the grocery store, getting conventional food from the grocery store that you cook and then put into plastic or, reheat in the microwave, this is all dead food. Buying, salad from a fast food restaurant is dead food. Where's the life force out of it? It's been so far removed from the ground. How much energy or life force do you still think is in that food? Now, for those of you who have ventured into this organic world, this cleaner food source would know what I'm talking about. Organic food tastes very different than conventional food, than dead food. And it actually has flavor. It tastes good. Now, there's multiple reasons to that as to soil quality and micronutrients, the lack of pesticides and chemicals that are on those foods in comparison to conventional foods. But, on this side of the world, we have to make that conscious choice when it comes to diet as to the quality of food we put in ourselves. If we're in a place like Europe, well, they don't have pesticides because it's all banned. So they're ahead of the game, per se. And this goes as far as I've worked with celiac clients. Celiac is a severe gluten intolerance where they're keeled over in pain, and they can go over to Europe and eat gluten no problem, because it's not, and for me anyways, it's not really a gluten problem. It appears to be more of a glyphosate problem, because many grains are sprayed with things like glyphosate, which is a pesticide on the food. So yin, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet. Are you sleeping 6 to 8 hours a night? Are you putting good quality food in your body? Are you aware of any food intolerances you may be having? Are you eating your food in a non-stress state? Are you sitting down actually focusing on eating versus eating on the run, eating, watching TV, eating, listening to a million things at the same time? Are you actually putting your body into a state where it can focus on digestion? Dr. Quiet. Go back not even 200 years. Go back 50 years ago. There were no Wi-Fi's. TVs weren't a thing. Dr. Quiet was you go lay in your bed, you read a book. There was no stimulus on the body. And here we are in bed with our Wi-Fi emitting EMF on us. We have our phone beside us emitting EMF and radiation on us. We have blue light emitting, all sorts of stress in our body because our body doesn't think it's nighttime now. It thinks it's still daytime, which is messing with your melatonin and now your circadian rhythm and hormonal rhythms. We live in a stressed state, which is why, many of us who go camping or go out in the woods feel so relaxed because all of these inherent stresses that our body has in our civilized society are removed. Now, I'm not telling you to go live in the woods because that wouldn't be a reality. The goal of this is to start to be aware as to alternative measures and something that a lot of us call biohacking as to how to live our life the best way we can live our life in our society. And these things take time to change. And this is why, I've created this coaching program because you can't make every change at once. I've talked about the 4 different levels of the human experience. I've talked about yin and yang. We're talking about 4 different doctors between Dr. Move and Dr. Diet, Dr. Happy, Dr. Diet. And, it takes time to work with each of those. I'm literally rewiring the way you see life, the way you run your world. And that's not an overnight experience. And it takes time to do that. And with all of that being said, if you take the time to start to make these changes, you can start to get out of that depression, that anxiety, that disease state, that feeling of being stuck. Beyond mental state and, health state, many of you are stuck in a job that you don't know how to get out of. You're stuck in a relationship you don't know how to get out of. You don't know how to communicate to your partner or your spouse. You don't know how to speak. You don't know how to speak your mind in general. And, speaking your mind doesn't have to be rude because you could do it in a very authentic and sympathetic way. But the fact that you're holding in all those emotions, you're repressing all those emotions will literally make you sick. It will change your energy. It will stop the flow of chi and energy through the body. And then the next thing you know, you're going to have an organ problem. If you have an organ problem long enough, you're going to have a diagnosis or be on a medication, and then physical pain is, usually not far behind. And a good way that I like to explain this for people that are kind of confused with the premise of how an organ can cause physical pain and physical changes in the body, it's simply this. When women are menstruating, they usually have some sort of back pain or hip pain or leg pain. And that's a very easy way to understand it. The organ is under extreme stress because the female is menstruating, and here you are getting physical pain as a result of that. Well, with that being said, if someone has colon issues or large intestine, small intestine, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, if you have any sort of inflammation in any of those organs, especially on a chronic basis, it's going to create physical referral pain because that's how nerves work. They go to a muscle, they go to an organ, they come from the spinal cord, and the messages are being sent to your body. And, we're in a society where we don't often pay attention to those symptoms and we try and cover them up. So I've spent the last few years just trying to understand the symptoms, the mechanics. What is the body trying to tell me? The human body always wants to heal itself. It always wants to get better. We, on the other hand, are usually the ones that stop it from getting better. We are the ones that shoot ourselves in the foot and don't get better. And then my question is why? Why do people self-sabotage? Why do people stop themselves from being able to get better? Why do people want to live in a state of disease or despair or stay overweight? And it's usually to a level of comfort. For me to move out of the story that I was not worthy and be a victim and not be good enough and, hold myself back was much easier at one time in my life than to, build the courage and be brave to change my identity, change who I was, change the way people viewed me, because I had to rewrite my own story. I had to rewrite the script. I had to change friends, change jobs. At this point, there's an income change for me as well, because I was working for myself. And so there's just many layers to this entire thing. So I know I've just given you guys a whole lot of verbiage that you may not have heard before or understand. And, I'm going to take a step back right now and, just try to give you some action steps if you're really struggling. I want you to take something away from this without doing anything else in terms of homework or research or, reaching out to people, anything like that. So, for me, I've been in poor mental states. I've overworked myself. I've, done things for other people in an effort to please other people, and it was not for me, and I suffered mentally because of it. And I would argue that my mental state, allowed an opportunistic fungal infection to occur, which created health problems for me. And in order for me to really deal with my health and get rid of my fungal infection, I had to work with my mental space as well. And they both kind of cleared up at the same time, funny enough. So on a weekly basis, let's focus on the 4 doctors. Dr. Quiet. Are you sleeping 7 to 8 hours of night in a pitch black room? Are you turning down the lights at night? Are you trying to get off of your phone and computer where all that blue light is affecting your circadian rhythms, I should say? Are you actually giving the body an opportunity to rest and do the cleanup that it needs to do at night in order to set you up for the next day? Dr. Diet. Are you eating high quality, nutritious food? And are you eating it in a mental state, a physical state where you can actually focus on eating, focus on chewing your food instead of wolfing it down while having a conversation, watching a TV show of people fighting? They often talk about having something humorous playing if you're watching, if you're eating food, because it encourages a very relaxing state. Many of us just live in a chronically stressed state all day long, and we're in that state for so long and so often that we don't even know, or they don't even know, I should say, that they're stressed. I'm doing manual therapy on people, and I have their arm in my hand, and I'm like, relax, and they're like flexing maximally, and they're like, I am. And then I let go of their arm, and it's still there, up in the air. Like you're not relaxed. Or I'm treating their neck, and it's like, relax, just relax your neck. And they're like rigid, they're fighting me. And this is a state of, you don't know what you don't know. That is your new normal. They don't even know what it's like to feel normal at that point. After Dr. Diet, we got Dr. Movement. Are you moving every day? Many of us live in an environment, in a life where we wake up, we drive or commute to work, so we're sitting, we sit at work, we, commute home where we're doing some more sitting, and then, we sit on the couch. Maybe some of us, will work out for an hour. And if we understand human evolution and what we did for 35,000 years, we moved all day long. I would say the last 30 years is the first time in human history where we didn't move. We don't move throughout the day. Back in the, if we go back in the ages, it was farming, it was carpentry, it was chopping wood, there were factories. These are all things that were involved in movement where we weren't sitting all day long. And if we understand the mechanics of the human body and how we function, we were built to move. Lymphatic system needs, the muscles to pump and contract and relax in order to pump fluid through the body. We weren't meant to be sedentary all day long. And then on top of that, eat shitty food. And then on top of that, sleep in a stressed out environment. And with those 3 being said, the last one that most people have the most difficulty with, I should say, is Dr. Happy, where they're just not living through to their dream, to their legacy, to their one love. They don't do what makes them happy. They do what they need to do because they need to do it. And there's not that there's anything wrong with that, but you need to create an opportunity, a time that makes you happy. So, I'm going to ask you a question. What makes you happy? What do you do that authentically makes you happy? And if you can't come up with an answer as I'm talking right now, we have a problem. You have a serious problem where you're doing things on a daily basis. You're living your life and you don't have anything that makes you happy, truly, authentically happy. I love what I do. As clients get better and they heal and you see the smile on their face, that makes me happy inside. The fact that I can just share the information that I've learned over the years to help other people makes me authentically happy, because I know that there's many out there who are struggling with their health, with their mental state, and they just can't get better or find the right person to help them get better. And with that being said, I'm not the person that will do it for you. No one's going to do the work for you. Only you can do the work. So if you're in that victim role, I highly encourage that you move out of that victim role and you decide to stand up and take charge for your health, and take charge with the fact that you are the only one that's going to get you better. You are the only one that's going to get you over the disease. You are the only one that's going to help you lose weight. You are the only one that's going to get you out of that mental space. And you have to put in the work. And putting in the work is hard and scary. Right? A lot of people are, paralyzed by fear. This idea that, a cleanse or a new job or something out of your comfort zone is scary. And it's fearful. But just remember that fear is simply false evidence appearing real. That's all that it is. I lived in fear of a long time of not being good enough and to do something like this. I was like, nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody's going to want to hear what I have to say. Nobody's going to show up. So I just let my fear stop me, and I never did it. And I did my yoga teacher training, and the biggest thing I got out of that from Baron Baptiste, who I did it with, was, the idea of persist where you resist by Carl Jung. It was a quote that he said. And I literally live by that, and I coach my clients on it all the time. And they see the benefits of it too. If you persist what you resist, anything that you are scared of, fearful of, anything that you have resistance to, I can guarantee you that that is what you need to focus on. That is what you need to do. I hated yoga. I'm like, this is boring. I'm going to fall asleep. Like, there's no way I can stretch. I'm not flexible. I was a bodybuilder. And here I am, I would say a year and a half, maybe a year. I did it last August. So yeah, just over a year. I did my yoga teacher training. And, I'm in a completely different space because of it. The amount of spiritual work that I did in my yoga teacher training, the amount of inner work that I was able to accomplish and that I unrooted and that I found during that process was unbelievable and so scary and so hard at the same time. I can't tell you like the amount of times that I was like, oh, I want to leave. This is so hard. I don't want to be here, blah, blah, blah. And I stuck it out. I showed up every day. I put in the work, and that's all that it's about. So, don't feed the state that you're in. Don't give it power, because as you give it power, you're going to paralyze yourself even more, and you're going to paralyze yourself with fear, and that fear is going to cripple you in the fact that you'll never actually get better. You never actually think that you can get better, and then you lay down, you roll over, you take the drug, you numb the symptom, you do whatever it is that they're telling you to do because you think that's your only choice. Something I want to add to that is the duality of Dr. Movement. Dr. Movement is predominantly a yang exercise or a yang activity, but it could also be a yin activity. So when I work with people who are in a disease state or are struggling mentally, emotionally, and they're in a poor mental space, sometimes aggressive workouts aren't what they need. It's too hard on their system. These people are already in a fight or flight state, and we're trying to move the nervous system into a rest and digest state. So we need to calm the system down. We need to get some, energy into the system. We need to get things moving in the system without hurting the system, And so in a Dr. Movement capacity, yin may be something like stretching or a yoga or a tai chi, going for a walk, just getting some fresh air. These are all bodyweight movements. No one has to go be a CrossFitter or a bodybuilder or run a marathon. There are yin ways to move and be active without completely stressing and destroying your system, which most people do as a way to bury mental emotional stuff. So, Dr. Quiet, are you sleeping effectively every day of the week, or at least most of the time? Happy? Are you doing something that makes you happy? Are you living your purpose, your dream, your legacy? Do you even know what that is? Dr. Diet, are you eating high quality, good food in the right environment and often enough? Many people don't eat enough. And then, there's more layers to this in terms of what foods are better than other ones. Should you avoid things like gluten, dairy, lectins, or food intolerances? But that's a whole different conversation all by itself. And then you have Dr. Movement, where are you moving frequently enough? Because we live in an avatar, being the human body that was meant to move. And are you doing it in either a yin or yang capacity, depending on your stress load and health state? So for those of you that may not have been taking notes, don't worry. I'm going to have a PDF that I'm going to send to all of you, reiterating everything that I just spoke about. As the webinar is titled, Are You Ready for Change? Ready for change. If you're here, I would assume you're ready for change. And so you have these actions items that you're welcome to work on your own, or you can reach out to someone like myself for coaching. I've developed a platform that kind of takes people through this step by step. We work at all these layers. There are so many more things that I'm sure you guys are aware of that I didn't go over, especially talking about the physical body overall. There's many layers. You don't know what's right. You don't know what's wrong. You don't know what supplements are good, so on and so forth. But we have to start in a very general way. If you don't work with your environment, if you don't work with the foundation as how you should be living life, there's no way you can get out of that mental state. If you are depressed and you're overworked and you're not sleeping and you're eating like crap, but you're going to a psychologist, do you really think that that is going to work? I'm telling you, it's probably not going to. There are people that are able to get out of that state, and I'm, obviously proud of them and happy for them, but there's many people who aren't, and that's because their everyday environment just isn't conducive to create a healing environment. And so the goal that I have worked on, the goal that I seek to achieve with people is to create an environment where they can allow the body to heal, where they can allow the body to do what it's meant to do, which is simply recover, right? And